In the middle of the night, a hand reached out and touched a sleeping man's chest. He jolted awake and grabbed her wrist in a flash, his eyes filled with rage as he demanded to know who she was. It all started when her grandfather kicked her out of the family mansion. He'd finally had enough after she turned down 99 blind dates. He told her that this time was different because she was going to meet one of the 3 elite grandsons of his best friend. He threw a file with their profiles at her feet, along with a jade token to prove who she was. Then, as a final blow, he had the butler freeze all her credit cards, leaving her with no choice but to do what he said. She came up with a plan to get her revenge. She showed up in the city dressed like a clumsy country girl with a floral vest and a sack over her shoulder, trying her best to get the brothers to reject her. But while she was standing outside the huge corporate building, 3 luxury sports cars screeched to a stop right in front of her. The infamous Nan brothers stepped out. There was the famous superstar Nan Jing, the arrogant student Nan Chuzhang, and their leader, the powerful CEO, Nan Sicheng. To their surprise, the country girl boldly hopped into the lead car. One brother scoffed and asked who she thought she was. She then proudly showed them her ID, which said her name was Su Qinghuan. When they got to the ridiculously fancy Nan family mansion, the staff lined up to greet her. The youngest brother was shocked when she innocently asked if 10,000 yuan could buy a place like this, only to find out it actually cost 500 million. Inside, the butler announced that she'd be starting work at the Nan Group and that the brothers had to take turns driving her. When they asked which brother she wanted to work with, she pointed right at the coldest one, Nan Sicheng, thinking his tough personality would make him the easiest to piss off so he'd kick her out. The brothers were pissed, but their grandfather's orders were final. Later that night, while she was sleeping in her new room, she had a nightmare about her traumatic past. In the nightmare, a little girl was running in the rain, being chased by men yelling that they were going to wipe out her whole family. She woke up in a cold sweat with her heart pounding. Thirsty and confused, she stumbled out of her room to look for water and walked right into the lion's den. That's when her hand landed on his chest. He'd already gotten suspicious in the car earlier when he grabbed her arm and asked why her skin was so pale for a country girl. Now, as he pinned her to the bed with his eyes burning with anger, a huge struggle broke out as he pinned her against the wall. His eyes blazing with suspicion, he'd seen her real face without the bad makeup and ugly mole, which confirmed she wasn't a country girl. Panicking, she looked down and screamed when she realized he wasn't wearing any pants. The next morning, at the fancy Nan family breakfast, a face on the TV news made her blood run cold. It was the famous pianist, Lin Mengqi, and she was wearing the exact same necklace from her terrifying nightmares. The youngest brother explained that Lin Mengqi was Sicheng's one true love, and the news sent a shiver down her spine. To keep up her act, she kept obnoxiously stuffing her face with buns, which totally disgusted the brothers. But her mission at the office was simple: get fired. Dressed like a janitor, she put up with her new coworkers making fun of her. They just saw a clumsy country girl who was an easy target. But when one of them told her to throw out her coffee, Qinghuan accidentally spilled it all over the woman's expensive suit. To everyone's surprise, when another woman tried to slap her, she easily blocked it. The game had changed. At her desk, still pretending to be a janitor, she secretly looked up the necklace online. It was the Ocean's Heart, a priceless diamond that used to belong to Sicheng's ex-girlfriend. But she wondered how Lin Mengqi got her hands on it and why it kept showing up in her nightmares. Her digging was cut short when a mean secretary confronted her, throwing documents all over the floor and stepping on her hand. Just then, Sicheng stormed in. He walked up, his voice dripping with ice, and asked if he'd invited her there to fight. The bully saw her boss and immediately played the victim, crying that this classless country girl had not only destroyed important documents, but had also attacked her. Without saying a word, Qinghuan kicked the scattered papers right back in the bully's face. But Sicheng's patience had run out. He grabbed Qinghuan by the arm and dragged her away while the bully screamed for him to wait. After cornering her in his office, he demanded to know why she had disguised herself to get into the Nan family. She tried to play dumb, claiming she was just a country girl who got into fights when she was a kid. He wasn't buying it. He leaned in close, his voice a low growl, and asked how she learned such standard fighting skills from a small village. He grabbed her chin and forced her to look at him, but she pretended to be in pain and broke his grip. He'd had enough. He told her with a cold smile that she had great skills and that she should go be a security guard. Later that night, she got a call from her friend. Her friend told her that the racer Sayu was a no-show and that his opponent was getting cocky and asking if she was going to come. It was a challenge she couldn't pass up. She threw on her racing gear and headed to the underground track. There, she found her friend arguing with a rival racer who was making fun of the legendary Su for being scared. That's when Nan Sicheng showed up with his brother by his side. He was there to race. The rival sneered that if she could beat his partner, he'd race them, calling her his partner's warm-up. Sicheng was stunned when he recognized the girl from his office and couldn't believe it was her. But the challenge was on, and she was his opponent. In the middle of a high-stakes motorcycle race, his brakes suddenly went out, sending him crashing hard onto the pavement. As his vision started to blur, He realized his opponent's cornering technique was exactly the same as the legendary racer Sue. His two brothers rushed to his side in the hospital. The younger brother was hysterical, shouting that their older brother couldn't die and make him a young widow. It turned out the nerdy girl with glasses standing quietly in the corner was his fiancée, Su Qinghuan. The second brother was furious and immediately suspected that someone had messed with the bike. He was told the brakes on his brother's motorcycle had suddenly given out. He swore that if he found the woman who did it, he wouldn't let her get away with it. What they didn't know was that the woman they were looking for was standing right there in front of them. Just then, a doctor came out of the operating room with bad news, telling them to say their goodbyes. But it was all a trick. The injured brother wasn't dying at all and only had a minor concussion. The doctor was just following orders to not allow any visitors. But there was a twist. The head of the family had given a specific order that only Su Qinghuan was allowed to stay and take care of him to help them build their relationship. Later in the private room, he woke up and immediately told Su Qinghuan to get him a glass of water. She flat out refused and told him to get it himself. He glared at her and threatened to tell their grandfather about what she'd done. Knowing she was trapped, she went to get the water. An assistant then showed up with a chilling update that all the security camera footage from the day of the race had been mysteriously deleted, and that the woman who raced him and the guy with her had disappeared. The man realized the person behind this was way more powerful than he'd imagined. Hearing this, Su Qinghuan scoffed to herself, thinking that she couldn't care less about his life. Suddenly, she slipped on an apple peel and fell right on top of him. Their lips met right as the door swung open and their grandfather walked in, his eyes wide with shock. Just as the grandfather was proudly introducing his grandson's fiancée, a woman in a gold dress sneered that the phony didn't belong there. A second later, another woman on crutches who looked just like the fiancée stormed in and swung her crutch to knock her down. She screamed at the phony to give her back her identity, but just as the crutch was about to hit, the grandson jumped out of his wheelchair and caught the fake fiancée in his arms. It turned out that his grandfather had forced the two of them into this engagement. After they were caught in an awkward kiss at the hospital, the old man faked a life-threatening illness, saying his only dying wish was to see them engaged. Facing this emotional blackmail, the grandson had no choice but to get on his knees and agree to the marriage. But he was convinced she was just a gold-digging opportunist. In a desperate attempt to get away, he offered her a check for 30 million to get his grandfather to call off the wedding. But to his shock, she ripped the check to pieces and threw it in his face, telling him to take his money and get lost. This just confused him even more since he couldn't understand why a woman so desperate for money would turn him down. What he didn't know was that she was only putting up with this humiliation to figure out the mystery of her own past and to honor a promise made between their grandfathers. Back at the engagement party, all hell broke loose. The rival in the gold dress pointed to a necklace claiming the fiancé was a fake. Then, the woman on crutches showed a photo of the phony with an old security guard, yelling that this girl was nothing but a security guard's granddaughter trying to trick her way into their rich family. That's when she attacked, which led to the shocking moment when the grandson saved the very woman he hated, leaving everyone stunned. In that moment, her glasses fell off, showing how beautiful she was. For the first time, he really saw the woman he was supposed to marry, and he was speechless. The woman woke up and shamelessly flirted with the handsome guy in her room, calling him a handsome little brother before suddenly insulting him by his real name, Nan Xicheng, for having a dead fish face. It turned out this was all part of her plan. She had just woken up from a nightmare, a memory of debt collectors violently attacking her when her family was destroyed. The family doctor told Nan Xicheng and his grandfather that she collapsed because of an old head injury, which conveniently explained her memory loss. Worried about her safety, the grandfather ordered Xicheng to protect his new fiancée at all costs, and even insisted she move into Xicheng's bedroom. As maids carried her stuff upstairs, Xicheng found a pair of pink racing gloves in her box that instantly reminded him of a mysterious female racer he'd been looking into. Later that night, he went into his room and found her awake. She put on her glasses and acted shocked, asking why her stuff was in his room. When he told her about his grandfather's orders for them to live together, she furiously refused and made up ridiculous excuses about her bad sleeping habits. Her desperate attempts to refuse only made him more suspicious that she was hiding a huge secret. While they were arguing, she saw a shelf of racing trophies and recognized an award from a championship she had competed in 3 years ago. At family breakfast, the man's brothers were stunned when their grandfather handed a folder to the new fiancé. It was an engagement gift of 10% of the Nan Group's shares. His brother immediately objected, pissed, that a total outsider was being given a piece of the company before she had even married into the family. It turned out this was all part of the grandfather's plan. The night before, he had forced the woman and his grandson Nan Xicheng to share a room. The next morning, maids gossiped about the loud noises they heard, and the grandfather was so happy he mistakenly thought they had slept together, so he doubled everyone's bonuses. What he didn't know was that the screams were from the woman furiously refusing to sleep in the same bed as the man she had sworn to destroy. Xicheng had heartlessly tossed her a pillow and told her to sleep on the floor. Back at the table, his brothers argued that giving her shares was dangerous, but the grandfather insisted it was to make up for the wrong she had suffered. But what no one expected was for her to politely turn down the multi-billion-dollar gift. Instead, she made a shocking request to be Nan Sicheng's personal secretary.